Hey, it's Ike with Create or Die, the podcast. That's right. And it's not just a podcast, it's something bigger. It's a freaking movement, my friends. You want to be a part of it, I know it. And your family and your friends, they want to be part of it. They want some of this merch. They want to represent. Go to createordie.net. Show your support. Much appreciated. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about this new year and what you can do with those creative skills of yours to make it a really good year, you know? And this is building off of the last episode around creative resolutions, but this time we're going to dig into that side hustle world. You know, I don't know if it's just my TikTok feed, but I be scrolling through there and it seems like people are just talking about, hey, stop scrolling and learn about this amazing side hustle, and you'll make an extra $10,000 a month just like that if you would just stop scrolling. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, except for this is for real. You know, those other ones, sure, there's some elements of reality there, but they're not being real with you, and that's what I'm looking to do here. Now, first out of the gates, it's called side hustle for a reason. You got to know how to get your hustle on. You got to know how to work. If you've got a day job and you're doing this, you got to find time to put in the work and then see it through. You know, it's not something where you're going to start today and a week or two from now you're likely to be making any money at it, let alone $10,000 a month. But with some work, some hustle, some determination, some tenacity, I guarantee you will see success. And it may not be in the way you think. You know, you may think, I hope to get X amount of dollars from selling X products, and by this month, that's what I'm looking for. It may manifest itself in a different way. It might be that you become more valuable at your current job because they see the hustle that you're doing in kind of these outside of work activities, or you sharpen your skills, you become faster, more valuable. Maybe it leads to some huge client that completely changes your life and the company you work for, which has happened for me. And I think I shared it in a previous episode, kind of my origin story and how the side hustle of creating stock art for websites like iStock Photo and TurboSquid were absolutely life-changing for me. And if you'd like to learn more, go check out that previous episode, or maybe I'll share it again. I do like to talk about myself. Just kidding. But yeah, let's get into it. What are some of these creative side hustles? And some of them you may know, some of them you may think are old and not worth your time. That's fine. But my belief is that any of these still have room for invention, reinventing, making something better. For example, stock photography or illustrations. You know, every year our tastes evolve as, you know, a society, a world, however you want to put it, and we see maybe the same types of illustration, you know, shape, language, style, colors, process used to create those images. Or with photography, maybe we've seen that model 1,000 times and we no longer want to use that unless we want our site to feel or our brochure or whatever we're creating to feel like it was made from stock. The goal is to make something unique, something that stands out. And I could go off in tangents here and the importance of creating custom illustration, but there's still plenty of people out there that need to leverage stock photography, stock illustrations, and whatever. And my point is, and it applies to anything that I'm going to share here, is that your unique perspective, your unique model, whether it's your spouse, yourself, your child, your friend, whoever, there is value in that, in finding that exact image for whatever project someone is looking to find artwork or imagery for. And so keep that in mind, that there is plenty of room for invention, and some of these things that may seem old or overly saturated, I'm telling you, because our tastes change and because styles change and the world is ever changing, you know, there's always a need for more, and the old just gets replaced. Okay, so let's do it. Creative side hustle number 1, online courses. Yeah, and this could be creative or otherwise. You could do a course on auto maintenance, or a course on cooking, and there are some arguments to be made that is creative. But you know, or it could be something closer to my world, like 3D course in Blender or Cinema 4D or ZBrush, or a course on creative writing or songwriting. The list goes on and on. So, online courses. Now, you might say, well, isn't that what YouTube is for? Sure. There are those who create full courses for free on YouTube, and you'll have to compete with that. How does yours stand out? Why should someone pay you for it? You can find some of my free courses at Create or Die on YouTube. But a lot of people will use YouTube as a platform to help drive traffic to their full paid online course, and they'll do, you know, smaller one-off courses, like let's use the 3D modeling example, and maybe there's a free tutorial on how to create this one object, but the full course goes into depth on how to use each individual tool in modeling and techniques and the background and history on, you know, poly flow, edge flow, all of that good stuff that may not mean anything to those listening to this, but suffice it to say, you can get much deeper in a full course, and people are expecting a lot of good content. And so you'll see that all the time on YouTube. You know, here's this video, and if you like that, check out my full course, and you can go buy it for $19.99 on Gumroad. Go check out my link in the description or whatever. Other online course platforms are Coursera, Skillshare, Udemy, etc. And you can, you know, I honestly, on a lot of those, I don't know what the process is for applying and getting your course up there. But from the looks of it, if you're even, you know, somewhat of an expert in your field, you'll have no problem signing up and creating content, but it's going to take some time. A course isn't something you can just do overnight. We're talking tens and tens, if not 100 hours of information, or maybe the raw record time was 100, 200 hours, and you've got to edit that down to something more manageable, maybe 20 hours. So, but yeah, online courses, and they're big business, and people make hundreds of thousands of dollars creating online courses. So give it a look. Give it a look-see. Do you have something of value to share, to teach? You might check it out. Okay, number 2 on the list, and these are in no specific order, just the way the chips fell, if you will. Digital downloads. And you could argue that a course is a digital download, but this isn't perfect. Let's just pretend that this is its own category. So yeah, digital downloads. And there's platforms where you can sell these, like Shopify, Etsy, Gumroad, again. And these digital downloads can be anything from brush sets for Photoshop, Illustrator, Procreate. They can be Photoshop actions. Photographers love those. I have this photo and I want to make it look like it's from 1920, and click this action, and all this stuff happens, and next thing you know, you've got a black and white sepia tone image with subtle stains and cracks in the image, and boom, you're back in time. So yeah, Photoshop actions. 3D models. This could be parts. Maybe you've created something for an Xbox controller where it's this little gear thing that adds a little steering wheel that moves the controllers, and this is a real thing that someone created. And Uncle Jesse, if you check out his YouTube channel, he talks about it, and he made tens of thousands of dollars 3D printing those. But so yeah, some type of part. It could be miniatures, for D&D, or maybe you've created your own custom little miniatures to use for the Monopoly game. You're tired of that stupid iron or the dog, and you want to do something else. Go for it. If you have the skills to create that, of course. And if you don't, there's probably a course out there to teach you, right? Collectibles. Maybe you've created something that, and when I think about collectibles, I think about like fan art. Maybe you've created some unique sculpture of Spider-Man, and someone can purchase your file and 3D print that themselves, put it together, paint it, and they've got their own collectible. Along those lines, toys. You can 3D print things, design them in a way where it's already connected, and say it's a little snake or something with kind of little vertebrae type pieces, and once it's been printed, you peel it off and it can automatically wiggle like that. Or there's spinning tops, whatever. We could go on and on. Digital scrapbooking assets, templates for handwriting to help teach kids how to write, paper doll puppets, patterns for clothing, or cross stitching, or you name it, knitting, crocheting, goes on and on. paper toys, if you've seen those. Cut it out, fold it together. You've got this little paper toy. Digital downloads. There are endless possibilities. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, direct to consumer. So again, this is technically, well, it's not. It's digital in that what you create or contribute is digital, but I'm talking about physical stuff being shipped to your customers. And some of the websites that do this are Spring, formerly Teespring, Shipify, Printful, and more. And this includes a lot of different things, from apparel, t-shirts, joggers, hats, underwear, you name it, or other merch like mugs, stickers, posters, journals, puzzles, blankets, towels, pins, whatever, with your artwork on there. And you can, create those things in these platforms, Spring, Shopify, Printful, and then connect it to your Etsy or Shopify account and plug those in and start selling. Check out CRE8.net, and that's how that was built. That's what I'm doing. Okay, on to the next one. What number are we on here? Number 4. And again, there's no order. You decide which one stands out to you the most. Which one do you want to look into? Okay, so number 4, digital templates. So again, this is technically digital download, but it's different because you're not just printing it on your 3D printer or printing it on your laser printer. This is tools that you use inside of other applications, like maybe the Adobe Suite, Figma, Canva. You can create these templates for different marketplaces like Envato or Motion Array. On Envato and other places, I think they're like monster templates. You can, if you're a web designer / developer, you could create templates for WordPress or Shopify. And people, again, make a lot of money at all these things, but it takes work. But if you start now, a year from now, you'll be that much closer to being one of those people that are making 5 figures a month selling this stuff. All right, so in addition to kind of what we mentioned here, like let's say for Canva or the Adobe Suite or Figma, they could be layouts for flyers, magazines, brochures, cards, signs, etc. Figma or Illustrator or Sketch or whatever, you can create UI assets so people can just drag and drop different buttons that are already editable and scalable in a specific style. And this goes back to my comments at the top of the program. You may think, well, there's a million of those out there, it's already been done, there's no more room there, it's too saturated. Well, styles are changing. Push those boundaries. What would Steve Jobs do, right? He would take the phone and make it into the iPhone with multi-touch magic craziness that none of us even thought that we were missing, and now we can't do without it, right? And we call them phones, but we don't even use them as phones hardly anymore. They're pocket computers. They're windows into social media. And there I go, another tangent. I hope you're happy. But yeah, digital templates. I mentioned motion array. You might not know what that is, but that's for motion graphics for videos, and it could be anything for people with YouTube accounts that want a little silly fire animation or character dancing in the corner or some kind of cool animated transition or animated titles to say, this is this person's name. It's a lower thirds thing, or maybe it's an animated intro, and because it's a template, these people can customize it for themselves. Put in their own text, their own photos, their own video clips, and it feels like something totally custom. Change the colors, you name it. So yeah, digital templates. There's a lot of room there, a lot of demand, and just like the other forms of art stock, styles are always changing, and so get out there and innovate. This is one that I just learned about this year. It's Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP. So this is similar to the direct-to-consumer stuff. I mean, it's a form of it, but it's a little unique in that it's just books. You've got softcover and hardcover, and this is one I see on TikTok all the time. People are going crazy over it and seem to have built pretty big followings just talking about their success. Oh, I make $5,000 a month selling this simple journal with some rainbows on the cover. So yeah, look into that. Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. My wife and I have been surprised to see that some of the books that we purchased, dieting, self-help books, different forms of nonfiction or fiction, whatever, end up being self-published this way by the authors through KDP. Pretty cool. So in addition, so they break it up into two categories. You can do like low content type stuff where, these are journals, sketchbooks, planners, whatever, just low content. You're not actually writing like a bunch of text. Or they can be, high content or real books like children's storybooks, novels, comic books, fiction, nonfiction, self-help, recipe books. Who doesn't like a good recipe book? Am I right? So yeah, if you've got an idea, there's no longer this crazy barrier to entry where you have to go and shop your book around to these big publishers, and if you don't know somebody or if you don't have the next Harry Potter series, there's no chance in the world that your book will ever see the light of day. Look at this. I've got some sketchbooks right here that I've created. This one is a proof, so it's got a little watermark on it. Now, if you're just listening to the audio, you're not seeing what I'm showing here, but these are some of those low content books. You've got the grid graph paper, or the what you normally see graph paper look like. I've got this concept sketchbook, which is unique to help generate ideas. So I've been running with this. To be honest, I haven't sold much yet, but you'll hear later in this podcast that there's one more piece to the puzzle, or maybe a couple pieces to really get things going. But I can tell you that my experience has been consistency, tenacity, create things that you would want to have yourself, and then just work it and be patient and get the word out, and eventually you'll start to find niche or your niche, however you like to say it. And then you'll be able to say, okay, this book or this piece of stock art sold better than others or is being viewed more often. Okay, I'm going to create more in that vein. There are definitely ways to, innovate or iterate. That's the term. Iterate. Okay. On to the next one. I think this is number 6. Stock art. Now I've talked about that before. I've talked about it a little bit earlier on in this episode, but this has been good for me. This is one of those things that I started doing back in 2007, if you can believe that, and started it just basically to see, hey, will I even get accepted to iStock creating vector illustration? And then if I am accepted, maybe I can use this as a way to help push me to improve on my vector illustration skills in Illustrator. And then did that for a while, and eventually decided, like, okay, this has been fun, but haven't made that many sales. Now let me see if I can do some research on what is selling, what are people looking for. As a consumer of stock art myself, what would I like to purchase? And then I created some of those things, and lo and behold, things started selling. And then I said, hey, well, let's do more of that thing. And then those started selling as well, to the point where it took a year and a half probably until I was making $1,200 a month selling only on iStock photo, with less than 100 illustrations, which is a lot. Seems like a lot for sure, and it is. But if I would have started in the beginning from that place of, hey, I want to sell and I want to see what's selling and how can I do my version, my Steve Jobs version, if you will, then I could have done that with a much smaller number. And you might say, oh wow, if you started in 2007 and you were making $1,200 in, let's say, 2009, I imagine you've got thousands of things up there now and you're making tens of thousands of dollars a month, right? Sadly, no. I'll be honest with you. Because, and I say sadly, but really it's happily. You can spin it either way. I got to a point where, that 1,200 was a nice shot in the arm and supplemented my income from my day job well, and I thought, this would be great to continue to grow this. But what ended up happening is I started getting approached by different corporations to do custom work, and at the time I was working for a consulting company and was rewarded for bringing in new clients and doing some business development. So it made more sense for me to shift my focus from stock art to that custom work for big clients, which then helped really build the company I was working for, the design consulting company. And so 2009-ish, right as I was hitting my stride, it was a consequence of my own success, if you will. I stepped away and focused on the business, and here I go. I'm telling my story again. Told you I like to talk about myself. But it's important, to have these case studies, to have these real world examples, I think. But that one iStock account, me personally through iStock, if I were to add up everything, is definitely close to $100,000, if not more. But what's really amazing is the work that we were able to generate, the relationships with big Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies as a result of that iStock account turned into tens of millions of dollars of revenue for the company I was working for. And they continue to, even though I've long since left that company, 5-6 years ago, they continue to benefit from that relationship. And not to pat myself on the back, but I'm kind of a big deal. No, but honestly, you never know what these side hustles will turn into or will manifest. So don't knock it. But yeah, back to stock art. I went off on a tangent there again. Some of the stock art places you could check out are iStock/Getty Images. They're one and the same now. They do have the two separate sites, but they're one company. Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, which is I think starting to gain some traction and could be one of the bigger players here in the not too distant future. Turbo Squid, which is for 3D assets, and they consequently are owned by Shutterstock now. Envato, they have their own 3D stock, and I think they have illustration stock, but they have templates that we talked about earlier. And then maybe you wouldn't consider it art, but Artlist.io. You can go and contribute your music or sound effects, Foley work there, and people can leverage your audio stock to help produce their videos or whatever it is they're creating. So yeah, we talked about music and sound effects, but a lot of these places, iStock, Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, all accept video as well, whether it be live action or animation. Illustration, of course, whether it's vector illustration or raster art, which is pixel art, and not like 8-bit pixel art, but like bitmap art, something you would draw in Procreate or in Photoshop, something that isn't vector, or 3D. So you can create some amazing piece of artwork or something that looks photoreal and sell it as an image, a photo even, or an illustration, but it was created with 3D. So maybe you're not a vector illustrator or don't draw by hand and aren't a draftsman or draftswoman, what's it, draftsperson, then yeah, leverage your 3D skills. And speaking of 3D, there are other stock art resources specific to 3D, like the Unity 3D asset store or the Unreal Game Engine asset store. There's ones for Blender where you can create 3D models that are game ready and can be purchased by indie game developers that need a tree model, or they need a model of a level or an old mill or whatever. textures. They don't even have to be 3D. It could be different seamless textures. You might say, well, there's tools out there that will do photorealistic textures, and well, it doesn't have to be photorealistic. It can be stylized. I mean, a lot of the best games out there aren't photorealistic, right? So yeah, there you go. That's the list. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure I've forgotten some, and if so, please drop it in the old comments, whether you're watching/listening to this on YouTube or at creatordie.net or on any of your favorite, podcast providers. You can find a way to contact me and let me know where I went wrong. Or maybe you want to learn more about one of these areas. You want to dig in deeper. And if I know the answer, I'll certainly share it. Or I'll bring someone on who knows better than me. Let's do that. Let's get us a guest who is an expert in one of these areas. You might say, why are you sharing this information, this valuable information about these side hustles? Don't you want to keep this information to yourself so that you can reap all the rewards? And my answer to that is threefold. Okay. For one, I've been helped by those who have graciously, get that word right, shared information with me on how to start something like this. And so I feel like a moral imperative to pay it forward. Number two, I'm one of those optimistic, positive types that believe that the pie is infinitely big and there's enough for everyone to go around and then some. You want second slice, third slice, you go for it. If you're willing to put in the effort, you deserve it, okay? So go get them. And then number three, like I've tried to, mention and reinforce throughout this entire program, none of these are silver bullets. You can't just grab one off the shelf, load it in your artistic gun and fire it off and see them dollar bills start raining. While that could happen potentially, it's far from likely. It still requires a lot of work. It still requires a lot of lead bullets, skill, and tenacity. So again, it's no accident that this is called a side hustle, because you gotta have the hustle. You need to know how to dig deep, how to carve out time where there isn't any, and not just work at it for a day, a week, a month, a year. It may take 2 years. My boy Gary Vee, that a lot of you probably listen to in one form or the other, he talks about how he was creating videos for his wine company / website for 4 years that got no traction and no one saw him. And then boom, now he's Mr. Social Media and has these huge corporations, and I'm sure will one day reach his goal of owning the New York Jets. Okay, so yeah, it's a lot of work, and you have to stick with it. And you may, if you're really hustling, see some real progress in months, and you may reach that level of income from these side hustles that you're looking for, whether that's 10 grand a month, 100 grand a month, whatever. Or it may be something you're not expecting, like I mentioned earlier with regards to how it could help you with your day job, like it did me, where it introduced me and the company I was working for to some amazing clients that definitely helped increase my ability to make more money at my day job. And I don't care where the money's coming from, as long as I got the money I need to provide for the family. And I'm sure the same is true for you. And so, in addition to creating these things or having the skills to produce the digital download or the t-shirt design or the stock art creation or the video or the web template or whatever, what it really comes down to is getting the word out. Marketing, right? Marketing is key. Whether you're, investing in paid ads on LinkedIn or Amazon, if you're doing the KDP stuff or wherever, or it's a word of mouth thing. Maybe you have some decent social followings and you're able to leverage those, or you just tell your friends and your family, just like you're telling them about this podcast, right? Or maybe it's your ability to create the perfect search terms or tags. It's essential to drive traffic to your stuff. This is where having, those strong social followings can really pay off. So again, let me know if you have any questions on any of these approaches, and I'm happy to create dedicated content on any of these. Until next time, my friends, keep on creating. Create or die.